Hello friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. I am Jenny, and today, the morning is just now getting started as far as the clock, but man, we have been at it this morning already. I will tell you that I am on cup number 3 of coffee, so I will try to keep it calm, but I can't promise anything. Now, we're going to go on a little bit of a garden tour all around the patio and then at the new beds behind us because we got them planted. Wanted to give you just a quick little update. Again, this is not an in-depth, this is just to show you how the gardens are progressing this spring. We're in the middle of April. We have had some very warm temperatures already here in North Carolina, so things are popping out, they're blooming. We are very happy. Our last frost date is technically tomorrow, I believe, but looking ahead at the forecast, we only have one day that looks a little bit iffy. I will also say that our neighbors right beside of us evidently are having some tree work done, and there is a stump grinder or a chipper rather going. So if you hear some funky noise in the background, it is what it is. I will just keep on going, and I know that y'all will be very understanding. So we're going to do a garden tour, and I'm going to get some annuals planted in this bed and some perennials planted in the new beds. So without further ado, let's get to this fantastic garden tour. Probably one of the first things you notice is just how green and lush everything is, and of course the creeping phlox that is along the border right here is just absolutely been magnificent this spring. I am so incredibly happy with it. So it is doing really well. Obviously, we have not gotten the fresh mulch in yet, but that will be happening. It'll be coming. It's fine. The new additions that I have added, because of course we have the 2 creeping phlox, right? So that just goes and it alternates back and forth. So in the center here, I have Paint the Town Magenta Dianthus, and they are very small right now. These are ones that we got as bare root from Walters because we had sold out of everything else. All the other ones that we had, this is fresh stock, so they are not as big as what I would like them to be, but I said, you know what, we're going to put them in here anyway. So they alternate between the phloxes. They will have a different bloom time than the garden phlox, the creeping phlox, so I thought that that would be a really fun addition to have. But you can see how everything is just exploding. The grasses, the look at, oh my gosh, look at the serendipity. Look how happy it is right here. What we're going to add to the beds today are, you can see here in the front I have, that is verbena meteor shower. Fantastic annual slash technically could even be a perennial for us. Then back in the back I have the senorita blanca cleome. That's going to be really fun and give me a lot of height and whimsy back there. But everything is really just progressing nicely. We have had wind, so you can see things have fallen over. It is just a constant battle right now. The Generous Gardener Climbing Rose from David Austin is an extremely happy plant. In fact, I was looking at it yesterday pretty close, and we have got buds coming out everywhere. So I'm going to see if I can get one. Look at that. Can you see that flower bud right there? So pretty. But yeah, the flower buds are all over it. So extremely happy this is. I planted it this time last year as a bare root, so it is doing really well, as is the shade garden over here. Hostas are coming out of the ground. I've got this really fun planter that was left over. We planted this in the fall, and it is just doing well. Again, I know that I need to have mulch in here. I've still got a couple of perennials I want to plant, so we're just going to wait until we get them planted, and then we will go ahead and mulch. Now, you will see here in front of us that I have a lot of 1 gallon proven winter pots. This is the Playing the Blues salvia. So this is what I'm going to plant as a solid quote row hedge in front of my David Austin roses. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 plants that I'm going to put in here. So the salvia is going to be in the back. You will see that I have the Carolee Petite Pink Guara. I believe that's right. If it's not right, I'll put it on the screen. Guara down here in the front. So I will have a beautiful display of pink flowers here, blue flowers here, and then of course the roses in the back. So that's what we're going to plant today as well. You will see behind me where the Proven Winners bulbs are. They have done really, really well. I have been very pleased with them. What you see now are the jonquils, daffodils rather, that are blooming. All of the tulips bloomed first, and then now the daffodils are coming and showing their beautiful colors. The containers back here are doing really well. They're really at the end of their life cycle. We had a gorgeous display of red tulips. Was so extremely happy with them. They just performed magnificently well. The ones that I had at the garden center, for whatever reason this year, were just duds in my opinion. Was not happy with them at all. But these, man, performed their little hearts out. I will say also the ones at the nursery were not from Proven Winners. These all are from Proven Winners. Now, I do treat tulips as annuals because we are North Carolina, a zone 7B. Our winters do not get cold enough for the long enough of a period of a time so that tulips they will come back, but they'll be foliage. I just don't have luck with these tulips coming back, so I treat them as annuals. So I will go ahead and pull them out and toss them. Now my daffodils, they should come back. So what I will do is, I don't want them here. I'm gonna dig them up, and I will move them to a location that I do want them, because you need to have, in order to get your blooms every year, you need to leave the foliage until it naturally dies back. Once it naturally dies back, then that has stored up enough food for the plant going into the next season. So I don't want them sitting here with brown foliage, even though I could plant other things around them. So I am going to move them. Now behind me, you will be able to see that we have got plants in the ground with those 2 flower beds. We did not film the actual planting because, full disclosure, it was a day where the nursery was not open. We had Kelly and Andrew with us, so we literally all had drills and augers, and we planted all of those plants in like an hour. It was amazing. It was fantastic. So what we're gonna do is just run down there real quick, because there's a couple of things that I want to show you, give you an update on, and show you some monarda that we are going to plant today. We had done a couple of videos on these 2 flower beds that we have created in the middle of our backyard to help kind of nook in our backyard, and so I will reference those in the video description so you can check those out. But everything is planted, doing really well. Clearly, like I said, we're going to put nice mulch down here and give it a good base of mulch so that they will be nice and happy. Now I have added a couple of things in here, one of which is this Amsonia storm cloud. I am a huge fan of Amsonia because it is an early spring bloomer, and storm cloud is really fun because it's a little bit more petite, has very, very dark stems, but of course those beautiful blue blooms that are just really, really, really pretty, gorgeous plant. So I have a couple of those dotted throughout both of the flower beds. And then you will notice that I did go ahead and purchase some peony garden supports, grow supports for these peonies. And I did it, even though these are the Ito peonies, which the Itos are a cross between an herbaceous and a tree peony, and they're not supposed to need the support. But I have a 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy that likes to run through flower beds. We have not gotten her quite trained on how to properly behave around flower beds. So this is more of a anti-Brenna support than it is a peony support. You can see that I still have some more supports that I am going to put out on these peonies, and so I was in the middle of doing that late yesterday afternoon, and I went ahead and stopped. Now we have a beautiful birdhouse from Heartwood. Love this. It is for the bluebirds, so I've already seen bluebirds going in and out of it. But again, everything here is doing really, really well. I did add some of the perennial, I think it's this, oh gosh, the name just went out of my brain. I'll put it on the screen, but it is a yarrow. And so this is from Proven Winners, and it's a very nice tight habit on this gorgeous yellow. It is blooming a little bit ahead of time, so this is not traditionally when it would bloom, but it's a tidier habit. Tight, it is not going to get very floppy, and I thought this would be a really fun plant to add in. I did add in 5 of them, so we have a little bit of a clumping here, and so those should do really, really well. Update on the Fairy Trail Bride hydrangea. She is doing well. I think she would look better if she had mulch and consistent water on her. So we do have a couple of little flower buds already forming on the stalks, so that is really fun, very exciting. So when you have a hydrangea that blooms on both new and old wood, you really do not want to prune it until it has flushed out. Once it has flushed out, you will know where you can properly trim. So I am not concerned. My interest rather is on this stem right here. If these do not, these little bud swells, if they do not actually produce some green leaves, then I will trim it back. And another rule that I tell people is if you're concerned if a stalk is alive or dead, you can go in, and if it's bendy, right, you can bend it and it doesn't snap, then odds are it is alive. If it snaps off in your fingers, that means it's dead, and you can go ahead and trim it back. One other fun little addition that I have put in the garden, really to help my brain, is with my peonies and my daylilies. I have gone ahead and gotten little plant markers for them. Order these from Kinsman. I also have the bigger version over at the nursery so that people can see what the names of plants are in the landscape. But I did my peonies and daylilies because I will never remember what they are. So those little name tags will probably disappear in the mulch when we put the mulch down. And that's okay, because in the long run, I will know what their names are. If you will remember the daylilies, which I have one right behind here, I got from a great friend of mine, and all of them are very different varieties, and so I want to have their names written down so I will remember what they are, because it's the biggest lie I tell myself, oh, I'll remember. Yeah, no, I won't. And then right here under the corner of the bed, underneath the red maple tree, we're gonna plant a little pocket of the leading lady raspberry monarda. So that is on our list to do today. We're gonna go ahead and make our way back up to where we started so I can grab my power planter auger, my biotone, and some of the time release fertilizer for my annuals, and we are going to get a couple of the, well, whatever I just showed you that was in a can, we are going to go ahead and get them in the ground. It is a fantastic, nice and warm day here in North Carolina. Clearly it is cloudy. We are going to get some rain tonight, so I would love to get these plants in the ground before we get rain, because as of right now, none of this has irrigation that is working on it. So let's get them in the ground before the rain comes. That way they'll get nice and settled in and never know that they have a new home. As we walk back up to where all our supplies are, I wanted to give you an update on the Incredible hydrangeas, which are behind, and then the double play doozy spireas up in front. They are all very, very happy. I even spotted a couple of buds on the doozies, so that is really fun. Everything is doing great. We got a table and chairs so we can sit on the back. Jerry and I had supper here last night. It was glorious. I know you're gonna ask. I got the table and chairs, and all of our rocking chairs come from Sam's Club, actually, online. So both of those are teak, so they can stay outside and just be fantastic and glorious. And then the one thing I wanted to show you too, actually two, while we're here, the Japanese maple. Look how happy that tree is. Beautiful foliage on it. I absolutely love this tree right here. So glad that we did it. And then as we were sitting out last night, I told Jerry, I said, well, look at that. Same color as the redbud, the forest pansy redbud. You would think that I would like to say that I planned that they would complement each other, but honestly, the thought never occurred to me. And then a couple of y'all had asked about how Little Lime Punch is doing. That is what here and here. The folks at Proven Winners sent us these plants last year. We got them in the ground a little late. And I actually lost one. They sent me 3. I lost one of them. But they only had one bloom off of these 2 plants last year. Really, it was just about trying to keep them alive, if I'm going to be honest with you. So I haven't seen exactly how they are going to do, but as of right now, man, they are both extremely happy plants, full of great foliage, and since they bloom on new growth, I suspect we will have tons of blooms on them, but I will keep you updated on those. Alrighty, my friends, so here we are. I have got some great cleome that I am going to plant here in a mass group directly behind Gatsby Gal hydrangea. So I've got Little Lime, sorry, I was thinking about Little Lime Punch, not Little Lime Punch. They are Lime Light Primes in the back. And then I have Gatsby Gal, and I have this nice little hole that is just begging to have a plant put in it. So I'm going to put the Senorita Blanca cleome. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that I put these out not last night, the night before. Then yesterday was really windy and they blew over. Look what happened to the plant in one day. So it was laying like this and they started growing towards the sun. Now, so that is why they're crooked, because I know you're gonna ask, why in the world are they doing a 90 degree? Because they were laying on their side and they started stretching for the sun. Am I worried about this? No, I am not worried about this. They will pop right back up, but that just shows you how fast these plants grow. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna go ahead and do a little bit of biotone in the hole. Traditionally, I don't use biotone with my annuals, but again, this soil is terrible. We're working on it and mending it as we go along. So I am gonna throw a little bit of that in the hole. And then of course, I'm gonna use my Power Planter auger. Love this thing. If you were interested in getting one, we have the link to Power Planter in our video description, and so you can go there and purchase it. Now, I will tell you that I am using today, traditionally I use the 3-gallon size auger bit. I'm using the 1 gallon, but it does have the special tip on it to deal with our red clay soil, really compacted. I'll link the exact one for you I'll put it in the comment section up at the top, so that way you can find it easier. It just makes a huge difference with our plants and digging those holes. So I've got 5 of them and I am just going to get them in the ground. Cleomes are a really fun annual to add to your garden. Now, cleomes are not a new plant by any means. They have been around forever. Your grandmama could have had them in her garden, but traditionally, or the traditional ones, you know, they're started from seed, and of course, and they will have thorns on them, and they will take their seeds and send them, of course, all throughout the garden. So they could be, in the past, I don't want to say invasive, maybe invasive in your garden, but kind of just pesky, a nuisance plant, right? Because they would spread. These have been bred. One, they have no thorns, so that is nice that they're easy and gentle to work with, and they are sterile, so they will not send out any just ate some dirt. Good thing dirt don't hurt, right? Anyway, they're not going to send out seeds, so they're not going to be invasive and reproduce all through the garden. Now, Senorita Blanca has pure white blooms. She's going to get tall. That's why I've put her back here. Could go up to 4 feet tall, between 2 to 4 feet tall. Exactly the reason that I want them here. Give a nice height background to this Gatsby gal, will fill in really nicely. The minimum spacing is 12 inches, the max is 18, and I have definitely gone on the minimum side because I want it to be one big mass. I don't want to see the individual plants. I just want to have a mass of gorgeous white blooms. Now, cleome also are really fun because as they grow, of course they bloom, and I've already got some little buds on them. They bloom, and then the plant grows, hides the old blooms, and there's this continuous cycle. So you never see the old, dead, spent blooms. It's just this constant, beautiful white that will grow nice and tall in your garden. So there is Senorita Blanca, and there's also Senorita Rosalita, which is a very pale pink, which I totally could have used here. I just went for Blanca. Cleome are also great for attracting your pollinators and your hummingbirds and your butterflies, all the wonderful little creatures that we want to have in our garden. So again, if you need some height, some different texture, it will grow wide, it will grow nice and tall. Cleome just might be the plant for you. All right, so the next plant on our list to get into the ground today is Verbena meteor shower. Now, we sell this as an annual / perennial here at Creekside because it is, it can be a perennial in zones 7 to 11, especially if you put it in the ground. So I will, hopefully this will come back for me. This is one of my hottest spots in the garden, so it shouldn't have too much of a problem with it coming back. But you will see that this is a really fun plant. It is not your traditional, what you may think of as far as verbena. Verbena, a lot of times we think of as like, you know, low and wide, right? That it just goes out. This is going to be a vertical verbena that lives up to its name because think of meteor shower, almost like a fireworks kind of thing, that you have these beautiful light lavender blooms on the top of these great spikes, and they just kind of go out. So this is going to bring a lot of height to the garden, some vertical interest for sure. They are nice and drought tolerant. I want to say that they may be even deer resistant. I will check on that. I know for some of y'all that's a really big, important thing, but they just spread and are gorgeous. Again, love the hot sun. I mean, they will get up to 20 to 30 inches tall. The spacing depends on, like, I could have easily put them, instead of the cleome, I could have done them in a mass planting and they would have been gorgeous. They just need to come a little bit closer than, say, the cleome, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches. Yeah, so we're going to, I've got 3 of them dotted throughout here, so I'm going to get those planted before we move on to the salvia. You know how sometimes as a gardener or just in life, you can you have this picture in your brain of how you want something to look. So I have in my brain about this spot, the generous gardener, right, in her gorgeous pink blooms, and you look through and you see the guara down in the front with its really whimsy, beautiful kind of flowering spikes, right, that the butterflies, hummingbirds love. Then behind that, you've got this row of gorgeous light blue salvia with that silvery blue foliage. Behind that, you have this menagerie, in a good way, of roses that go from the Ruelle Dahl in that peachy color, then to a white, then to a pale yellow. stunning. And then behind that are the azaleas and the tea olives with the Japanese maple right there. Oh, like I just want to create this thing where you just like you see this and you want to go through it and to go and continue to explore the gardens that are beyond it. Create a little mystery in the garden, especially because we live out in the middle of wide open areas. It's my hope and my desire and my goal to create those little private nooks where you're constantly, you can't see everything all at one time. You're like, ooh, what's around that corner? Oh, or what's behind that? Oh, I see something right over there. Let me go explore that. So just to give you an insight to how my brain works, that is what we are trying to create. And I think we're getting really close to right here. So let's get these babies in the ground. So I've got all of the Rockin' Playing the Blues salvia in the ground. I cannot wait. I have had this vision in my head for a long time. Get inspiration wherever you can. This kind of inspiration has come from looking at so many of the pictures on from David Austin roses, because obviously the David Austin roses, and so I just scour their Instagram page and their website and of course their catalog. They're great on giving information and lots of pictures that give me inspiration. So to have this blue salvia with the pink guara in front of the roses is going to be great. I did go ahead and put a little biotone in the hole because, and I just realized this, these could be a perennial for us. I have said that for a long time as far as the Rockin' series with the salvia. As long as you don't pull it out of the ground and you just cut it close to the ground in the fall, they have come back. So it's nice to see that that they're saying that on the tag as well. So they're saying from a 7A to a 10B, these can be perennial. Again, hottest part of my garden, so hopefully they will come back year after year. As I was planting my salvia, I got to be a little bit of an eager beaver and I snapped off a piece of my salvia. If that happens, don't worry, don't freak out. It's gonna happen. I'm sure that Brenna is gonna run through here, is gonna probably step on somebody, it's gonna get broken, and while I hate to have to start all over again, I know that it's not gonna kill the plant. In fact, it'll help it actually in the long run become a lot bushier. So if you want your salvia to be wider and thick and it starts to grow too tall, just snip it back on purpose and it will get nice and full and bushy. So now that we have got these in the ground, we are going to move on down. We got one more plant to get in the ground. That is the Leading Lady Raspberry Monarda. Cannot wait. So let's move on down to the other flower bed. All right, to give you a little bit of information on the leading lady raspberry monarda. This is a perennial. Monardas are perennial. They are hardy in zones 4 to 9. And unlike traditional monarda that we think of, like the Jacob's Klein, this is gonna be a nice and short and petite. Hence why I have it in front of this maple tree. It will only get to be 10 to 14 inches tall, but it'll get nice and wide. So it could get up to like 2 feet wide. I do have some of this at the nursery in what I call Laura's bed, and so it has gotten nice and wide, did really, really well. That is why it is one of my absolute favorites. Full to part sun, of course. This will have beautiful raspberry colored blooms on it. The hummingbirds go nuts over it, pollinators, butterflies, all the good things again that we want in our garden. I am gonna put it in a grouping right here because the idea is then that I can put some annual color on the backside. We're gonna be using a lot of the new lantana, the luscious citron lantana, so I can put it right here. Yes, we still have grass coming up through the mulch area. It's not even mulch, it's the compost. We will of course take care of that. I do have to be aware that I am underneath a maple tree. Hopefully we should avoid all of the big major roots and get these in the ground. Again, get them nice and established. Of course they will receive biotone. So last plant of the day, and we're going to get it in the ground. All right, my friends, so all the planting for today is done. Sure does feel good to get some of those things in the ground. It is definitely go time here in North Carolina. Again, you know, middle of April. I have found, just as a little tidbit, the sooner you can get your annuals in the ground, of course perennial shrubs, same thing applies, but think about annuals now, is the sooner you can get them in the ground, the more established they can be before the heat of our summer hits and the humidity, right? So those death temperatures that come to North Carolina. So for me, I always think if I can get my annuals in the ground, the landscape part, and get them established, you know, mid-April, 1st of May, they just do so much better. In the long run, and it's less work on you because you're not having to water as much. So it feels good to have these in the ground. Of course, I will continue to add here and there, and I will bring you along for the ride as many times as I possibly can, and keep you updated on all these areas. Now, the big thing that I'm starting to feel the crunch on now is for these 2 beds, we're gonna lay down drip irrigation on them. But the big thing is mulch. They need to go ahead and get some mulch because that will make the plants so much happier and start to get them established into the ground. But feels good. The next big thing that I am thinking of is I will go ahead and plant the western urns here on the seating wall and get those planted. And then remember, here at the deck, we have those planter boxes that go along the 2 sides of the deck. So we will get those planted as well. So lots of fun things happening here. The nursery is open today, so I think I'll mosey on down and say hello to some people. But thanks so much for watching. And as always, we appreciate you. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for gardening with Creekside. Bye, friends.